Welcome everyone to AEW All Out here on TEW 2020. This is the All Out buy-in, the pre-show before the main show. You'll be seeing a total of 3 matches. Let's get into them. So starting first, we had Chris Statlander up against Dr. Britt Baker. These two did compete for that number 1 contendership match back on Dynamite in the previous episode, and it was Chris Statlander that got the better of Dr. Britt Baker in this match by beating her through submission in 6 minutes 40. I feel this mod is just so harsh on the women's division of AEW. But we move into our next match of the buy-in. It's Jurassic Express against the Hybrid 2 in a pre-show bout that had a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling. It was Jurassic Express that got the win against Hybrid 2 in 11:48. Hybrid 2 on a bit of a losing streak at the moment. It's not looking too good for them. But saying that, Jack Evans was the better performer. And then we move into our last match of the buy-in between SCU and Private Party. This was the number 1 contendership match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And it was Private Party who have been on an absolutely fantastic run lately, beating the likes of the Young Bucks and also Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle. Private Party are new number 1 contenders for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. It was a decent match, decent pre-show match, and it was Marquen that got the quick cradle on Frankie Kazarian. So then, we move now into the main show, the show that we've been building towards for the last 4 episodes of AEW Dynamite. It's AEW All Out, and we're here in Chicago. It's something I've been really looking forward to. My first real pay-per-view on TEW 2020. Hopefully it's a good one. So we start with huge pyro exploding from the All Out set. The camera zooms over and through the crowd as we are live here at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, in front of 23,000 fans. Jim Ross. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to one of the biggest nights of the year for AEW. This is All Out. We are live in front of 20-odd thousand fans, jam-packed inside the United Center here in Chicago, Illinois. I'm JR, and sat alongside me, Tony Schiavone. What a night that's ahead of us, Tony. You'll notice I've taken Excalibur off commentary for this pay-per-view event, and Tony Schiavone replies with, "It certainly is. We have Jon Moxley putting his title on the line against Le Champion Chris Jericho. The AEW World Tag Team titles are on the line also as Hangman Page and Kenny Omega team up to take on the Death Triangle, Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. And what I've been looking forward to, the first ever TNT champion is set to be crowned. Who will it be? The Murderhawk Monster, Lance Archer, or the Bastard Pack?" So let's just go over then the match card for tonight. We've got the AEW World Championship on the line. Chris Jericho getting what he wants as he will face Jon Moxley for that title. He wants to be the real Le Champion of AEW. And then we've got the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Tensions rising between these two, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, against 2/3 of the Death Triangle. And also the first ever TNT Championship match. Who will become the first ever champion? Will it be Lance Archer or Pac? Also, we've got Broken Matt Hardy up against Darby Allin, the Enigma, in a tables match. And the Women's Championship is on the line between Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida. We also have maybe potentially a retirement match between Dustin Rhodes and MJF. And finally, kicking tonight's show off, the Young Bucks up against Proud and Powerful. So looking back on the first episode of Dynamite, it was Proud and Powerful that distracted the Young Bucks against Private Party, which allowed Private Party to go on and win. Young Bucks returned the favour when Santana and Ortiz faced Private Party, seeing Proud and Powerful picking up a loss there also, leading to this match, the opener to All Out. And in a bout that had great wrestling and good heat, a segment rating of 78, it was the Young Bucks that defeated Proud and Powerful in 19 minutes when Matt Jackson pinned Santana with a Meltzer driver. A brilliant way then to kick off the show. I expected no less, really, from these two teams. Well, especially when you've got one of the best tag teams in the world in the Young Bucks. I mean, segment rating got a tag team specialist bonus from Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson tagging together. Why would you ever want to break these two up? I do not know. I haven't seen it on anyone else's save. I'm just saying, why would you want to? Why even think about it? So a great win then for the Elite. As we move into our next segment, we're backstage with Alicia Atu, our new interviewer, and Dustin Rhodes. Dustin, tonight you face MJF in what he is calling your retirement match. Is that the case? I mean, if you are to lose, could tonight be the last night in which we see you step into the ring? Dustin Rhodes replies, I'll admit, these past few months have been difficult, especially through lockdown. I thought long and hard about my career and how much I have left to give the business. And you know what decision I came to? I've still got a lot to give. Through the duration of lockdown, I worked my ass off, getting myself to peak fitness. I'm ready for tonight, and anything else life wants to throw at me after tonight. MJF will just be another notch in my belt. And then Dustin Rhodes just walks off. So we've got a segment rating of 43. I wasn't expecting too much from this, but it's still kind of telling the story, still getting over as we head towards that match later this evening. I do feel that I haven't really had much time to put this one together for Dustin Rhodes. We only had 4 weeks because I started at the start of August. And as we know, in real life, MJF defeated Cody, so he's trying to play off that. Anyway, we move into the next segment. DDP makes his way to the ring with the TNT Championship. He will present the winner. Who will it be? Will it be Lance Archer or Pac? It got a segment rating of 55. It was a good bout, had good heat, decent wrestling. Obviously, with this tournament, it was my take on it because I was playing off the fact that the whole professional wrestling world had been put on hiatus because of the coronavirus pandemic. And then when things slowly opened back up, we had the TNT Championship allowing us to use every worker, then allowing Pac to get in to make it to the final. And it was Pac that defeated the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer in 10:32 after a shooting star leg drop. It was Pac that wins the first ever TNT Championship. So there we go. It was quite a difficult decision to make this because both are heels, and I know it's going to, as you saw there, it's going to get the penalised for that heel phase combination. But everyone I put Lance Archer against, he just had to win, and the same goes for Pac as well. We move into the next segment. After the match, as DDP climbs into the ring, he looks across at Jake Roberts and Lance Archer and shrugs his shoulders. Quite the interesting interaction. As we know, DDP, Jake Roberts, they have history. DDP saving Jake Roberts. We're going to go through all that, I'm sure, but Pac snatches the title off DDP. Lance Archer and Jake Roberts watch on from the top of the entranceway, eventually walking off shaking their heads. Don't think this is the last we've heard from the Murder Hawk monster. But I didn't want to have any other sort of interaction, another beatdown or whatever. I know it's a new title for AEW and a new title for the series, but I felt we just had to do something similar to that. We move into the next segment now. And at ringside, Allysin Kay is shown sitting front row in the crowd, watching on with a stern face, ready for the AEW Women's Championship match. Across the other side also sits Seda Zhang, but smiling and waving at the camera. So 2 new women added to the roster in Allysin Kay, formerly known of the NWA, and Seda Zhang as well. So we've had Marty Bell come over from the NWA. Now we've got Allysin Kay, just trying to add numbers to that women's roster. And so that leads into the next match then, as you already know, the AEW Women's Championship between Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida. It was in a bout that didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling. As I've already mentioned, this mod, it does not like the women's division in AEW. But saying that, this match got a segment rating of 41, which I think is the highest I've received in a women's match so far throughout this series. So that's a positive, obviously. It's really good to see. And this was set to calm the crowd, which worked. And it was Hikaru Shida that defeated Nyla Rose in 9:25 with a full metal muffler. Hikaru Shida wins the AEW Women's Championship title, shocking the beast, the native beast, Nyla Rose. So it's good to note that because we had a hot crowd after that match between the Young Bucks and Santana and Ortiz, and also Lance Archer and Pac, that we calmed the crowd down and it worked. So I'd say that's quite the success. As we move into our next segment, Alicia 2 is backstage once again with Chris Jericho this time. Chris, on Wednesday you were defeated by Jon Moxley, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, in a 6-man tag team match. You also received a sprained wrist in that match, so we're playing off the fact that you did actually get a sprained wrist. How has that affected your preparations, and will it affect your match tonight? Thankfully, he is fit for this one. Haha, you think you're smart, huh? With your fancy questions. You know, you're just like Marvez. So shut your ass or two. Tonight is the anniversary of when I became the first ever AEW champion by beating that stupid asshat cowboy Adam Page. What a nice way for things to come full circle. So I will raise my arm in victory as your true Le Champion of AEW. And Jericho walks off with Hager. So we got a 56 from this. It advances the storyline just that little bit further as we head towards that main event. And Jericho clearly enjoyed having the freedom to go off script, as you would expect. I did think about doing an interview with Jon Moxley, but you don't usually see that on a pay-per-view, the champion being interviewed. It's normally the challenger. Alicia too, I think she's doing okay at the moment as our new interviewer, but I do also have Alex Marvez. Anyway, moving into our next match. It's one I've been looking forward to seeing how it plays out, what sort of rating we get. It's between Darby Allin and Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy seen a lot in Darby Allin, with which he saw in his own brother, the charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy. If you remember, it was Darby Allin that accepted the open challenge from Matt Hardy, Broker Matt Hardy, I should say. And it was Matt Hardy that got the win, which I didn't want to do because Darby Allin's got so much potential, which led us to this match here tonight. It was Darby Allin's own open challenge to Matt Hardy in a tables match, and it was Darby Allin that came out on top after putting Matt Hardy through a table. So you would imagine it would be a coffin drop. The ending that I had in my mind was a coffin drop from the top of a ladder onto Matt Hardy on the table below. How about that in-ring performance, though, from Darby Allin, head and shoulders above Matt Hardy. He picked up a 51. Matt Hardy, I think, if we scroll down to the bottom, I know it had that odd face-heel combination, both faces heading into this, but Matt Hardy, I think, does he have the declining ability? I can't see it anywhere, but I would expect that to be the case. Darby Allin took a stump bump in this match. As as I've already said, that would have been my ending. Darby Allin from the top of a ladder, putting Hardy through a table. As we move into our next segment backstage, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page are seen in their locker room preparing for their match. Kenny Omega, hey dude, I know things have been a little out of sorts these past few weeks, but I want you to know I have your back out there tonight. Let's retain these titles. Right on. It's obvious that wasn't the reaction Kenny Omega wanted from his team partner, but shrugs it off and continues preparing himself by taping up his wrists. So he's still playing off this story between Omega and Hangman Adam Page. Can they still coexist? Page, a bit distant from Omega, just wants the best really from their tag team and being as champions. It got a 70 rating, which is really good to see. As we roll into our next match between MJF, who's calling this one Dustin Rhodes' retirement match. Whether that will be the case, I'm not sure at the moment with Dustin Rhodes, but it was about that had great heat and decent wrestling, which was really good to see. It got 56 though. MJF, Dustin, both very similar with their in-ring performance. Colour commentary was good. Wardlow did some good work at ringside, which I wasn't expecting to see, as MJF goes on to defeat Dustin Rhodes in 12-19 after a fast roll-up. I wasn't expecting Wardlow to get quite the positive there, really, doing good work at ringside, simply because the last couple of segments that I've done, whether he's off script or what, he's been penalised, he's been absolutely hammered on. But But yeah, it's really good to see. I mean, Wardlow normally does do good work at ringside anyway, even in real life. And for him to get screwed for that, it'd be kind of unfair, I think. Is the story over though? I mean, I've only had 4 weeks to build. I did want just a little bit longer, considering how long MJF and Cody had in real life to build towards their match at Revolution, as I felt it was just beginning to pick up a bit of steam, but we had the pay-per-view, and with Wardlow being at ringside and this next segment as well, after the match, MJF continues to punch down Dustin Rhodes. Wardlow steps in the ring and puts a hand on MJF's shoulder, stopping him. He picks Dustin up and hits him with a devastating F10. Both MJF and Wardlow stand tall. Huge exclamation point there. MJF mouthing at the camera, "Nobody can touch me because I'm better than every single one of you, and you know it." He smirks and walks off with Wardlow. This segment rating getting a 65. Dustin Rhodes clearly enjoyed having the freedom to go off script, even though there was no script involved. And MJF, of course, being the flavour of the month. Is he going to be the flavour of the month throughout the whole year? So I think that segment, in a way, it kind of closes the door on the storyline, but it also leaves it open. You know, Dustin could always look for a bit of retribution after what happened, that beatdown. Having Wardlow at ringside as well throughout the match obviously went against him, so we'll see what happens. We move into the next segment, backstage once again with Alicia Aew. With me at this time, the Exalted One, Brody Lee. Mr. Brody Lee. The last few weeks it's became obvious that the Dark Order are looking to recruit. Any word on if this mission has been successful? Successful? Of course it's been successful, Alicia. We, the Dark Order, have been overwhelmed with applications, which we have been more than happy to accept. These are real people, living and breathing human beings that have been downtrodden by higher-ups in life. They are people that want nothing more in life than to be successful, and over the next few weeks, the Dark Order will begin to demonstrate what we can offer you and everyone else that has second-guessed us. Brody Lee walks off, leaving Alicia Aew questioning herself. Brody Lee, that intimidating presence, obviously towering above Alicia Aew, as you could imagine. So Alicia Aew, just wondering, maybe, should she join the Dark Order? And at this point, anyone could have joined the Dark Order. It got 39. I'm disappointed by that. I was expecting more from Brody Lee with his pop and obviously his acting and his mic skills. That should have been a lot better, that segment rating. It got the job done though. Still telling that story. The Dark Order is recruiting. We'll have to wait and find out who's been recruited as we move into the next segment. Chris Jericho is already in the ring after his Judas entrance. Ready for his World Championship match. Jon Moxley's music hits then, and instead of him walking through the crowd, there is a siren heard. Stage left. A police van reverses out. The back doors are opened by an officer, and he proceeds to unchain Jon Moxley, who then steps out with his AEW World title that he reclaimed last week on Dynamite. He stands there, he soaks up the atmosphere, and then begins to swagger his way to the ring. This segment rating getting a 79 would be a fantastic entrance. Obviously, having his dealings with being put in prison over the course of the last few weeks on Dynamite after trespassing into Jericho's palatial estate, having him come out in a police van and getting unchained as well ahead of this main event. I think it just works. It's perfect. As we move into the main event, this match got an 81 between Jericho and Jon Moxley. I'm grinning from ear to ear because it's one of our best matches I've put on so far in this save. I think our best so far is Kenny Omega and Pentagon Jr. back on Dynamite 2 weeks ago, or was it 3 weeks ago, which got an 82, so just above it. Jon Moxley with an in-ring performance of 89, Jericho with a 62. And your winner, and still AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley. I would go all Justin Roberts, but I'm not ready for that. I don't think my neighbours are either. But it was about that, had fantastic heat, great wrestling. It took 15 minutes for Jon Moxley to hit that paradigm shift and get the 3 count against Jericho. During the match, we also had Jake Hager accidentally hit Jericho, and Jon Moxley makes defense number 2 of his title. There's that decline in physical ability, which I was expecting to see in Matt Hardy's match, but that wasn't the case. It was for Jericho, though, in the main event, which is a shame. It's sad, because as we know, Jericho is one of the best performers worldwide in all of professional wrestling. But there we go, Jon Moxley retains his AEW World Championship. Was there any other outcome, really? Would have been awful to have took the title off Jon Moxley so early into his reign. And then we move into the next segment. It's just a quickie, as JR and Tony Schiavone announced that on the next episode of AEW Dynamite, there will be a battle royale to determine the new and next number 1 contender for the AEW World Championship. I'm yet to really go hard on the rankings at the moment. That is to come, don't worry. I'm just trying to figure out how to do all the graphics and all that goodness. But there is the confirmation then. Next episode of Dynamite, 10-man Battle Royal to determine the new number 1 contender. We roll into then to our second part of tonight's main event. I had to put this on last. This tag team match between the Lucha Brothers and Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega, because of the high heat the storyline has received and how much I've enjoyed putting these angles together between the champs, Hangman Page and Omega, and of course Death Triangle as well. Making their way to the ring in new attires and plenty of fire pyro, Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix of the Death Triangle, they look focused ahead of the main event for the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. So that got 64, and we roll into the main event then, and this got a segment rating of 79, so not as much as the AEW World Championship match between Jericho and Jon Moxley, but I still think it's a great way to end the evening, to end the evening's action anyway, because we've still got one more segment to go after this match. But looking at that, everyone stepped up. They really did perform. It was Hangman Page that underperformed slightly with a 58, but it was Hangman Adam Page and Omega that retain their AEW World Tag Team Championships. After weeks of questions being thrown at the Tag Team Champions, will they be able to coexist as a team for much longer? Will they be able to retain when they do face Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix? Well, yes, they have. And it ended in 24 minutes. It was a Tag Team Classic. And it was Hangman Page that pinned Pentagon Jr. Hangman getting a bit of retribution on Pentagon Jr. after it was Pentagon Jr. that attacked Kenny Omega after his match against Omega back on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago, and it finished with the Adam's apple. In terms of in-ring work, Omega was head and shoulders above everyone else, proper ring general that he is. A good psychology between Pentagon Jr. This was set to epic as well, this tag team match. I really wanted to go all out. We had Steal the Show on the Young Bucks and Santana and Ortiz earlier in the evening, but this, as it just about beat it, so happy with that. So we opened All Out with a tag team classic, and we closed All Out with another tag team classic. Real heavy focus on tag team wrestling in AEW in real life, and also here in this TEW 2020 save. And the crowd was buzzing, and that's good to see, because as we head into the next segment, Cody Rhodes comes down to the ring, dressed smartly, not ready to compete, as we know from the last 2 weeks. Was supposed to be Cody against Sammy Guevara, but Guevara got injured in his match on Dark. So I've had to roll with it, and thankfully I did have a backup plan. So as Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix walk out, Cody passes by Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, congratulating them. He comes to the ring. The evening is coming to a close. He picks up a mic and he goes on to say, "What a fantastic evening of pure wrestling. You know, as long as you fans keep coming, my heart will keep beating. The more you cheer, the more I'm willing to bleed for every single one of you." Cult of Personality hits to a huge pop. CM Punk comes out and stands at the top of the entranceway, taking it all in. He takes a knee, listens to his wrists, and shouts, It's clobbering time! He makes his way to the ring, the crowd going crazy. He steps into the ring and stands tall in front of Cody with a smirk on his face. Cody is just nodding, appreciative. He sticks out his hand for Punk to shake, and CM Punk does. Cody is heard saying, "You got me good." So this segment rating getting an 83. I think that's definitely up there with a Jon Moxley promo, the Jon Moxley segment throughout the last couple of weeks, isn't it? An 83. The angle got the crowd hotter, almost boiling over here in Chicago, Illinois. CM Punk is all elite. He's here in AEW. Remember when there was so much speculation? AEW's first pay-per-view, All Out, at Chicago last year. There was so much speculation that CM Punk was going to be there. I kind of wanted to see it, but when it didn't happen, I just thought, now AEW doesn't need CM Punk, as Chris Jericho said in real life, but it got me thinking, which is why we're here, fantasy booking. Both men are just soaking this reaction up from the crowd. Cody turns his back, applauding those cheering. When he turns back around, Punk lifts him up onto his shoulders and nails a GTS, laying Cody out. Punk sticks his middle finger up, something he was never allowed to really do in the WWE, climbs out of the ring and walks up the ramp smirking all the way. When he gets to the top, he turns around and puts both middle fingers up to everyone in the crowd, then walks out. AEW All Out concludes. That got a 73. The crowd absolutely hot after those last two segments, after the main two-part main event as well. I think for me, this pay-per-view's been a success. I've really enjoyed putting this one together. My first real pay-per-view on any TEW game. This is my first real TEW game this year, so I'm absolutely buzzing myself for putting this together, and hopefully it gets an overall decent rating. For the matches we've had on the card, the Young Bucks against Santana and Ortiz, Jericho and Moxley, and that last tag team championship match as well between Paige, Omega and Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. So dirt sheet, CM Punk was penalised for an awful gimmick. We'll just go over that, but wow, what a show. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Let's finish it. Let's see what we've got as our overall rating. An 80. Come on. An overall rating of 80 for AEW All Out at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, in front of 23,000 fans. It's our biggest attendance yet. It's our best show yet. It's fantastic. Let's advance then and see how well we did with our buys of the pay-per-view, our rating. So, AEW held All Out last night at the United Center, drew 23,000 fans. Feedback has been excellent. Seems they really struck gold with this show. So, we managed to sell out the United Center. That's really good, considering that our last couple of weeks on Dynamite, our attendances have been between 3,800 up to about just under 5,000. To think that we sold out the United Center with 23,129, that was great to see. It got a 1.36 buy rate, which is 680,000 buys. It had a total of 802,000 viewers, so we didn't smash the million mark as we have been doing for AEW Dynamite, but this of course was on Fight TV, it was on BR Live, it wasn't on TNT, it was a pay-per-view, so we can't be expecting those type of numbers. Looking at BR Live, we had 122,000 subscribers. Fight TV got 0.03 buy rate, 15,000 buys. I think Fight TV, it's not as big as BR Live is, especially when it comes to North America. I know I use Fight TV. It's mainly for, I know it's available still in America, but I know the majority of the UK, if they want to be watching AEW, yes, they've got ITV4, but they're not the best. Fight TV, it's the way forwards. We also were on In Demand. That had the highest buy rate with a 1.33. So a pretty successful first pay-per-view here on TEW 2020 with AEW for myself, I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you enjoy the show or not? It's also a step in the right direction in trying to conquer the WWE with AEW. Anyway, that is it. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you all soon for the next edition of AEW Dynamite.